Natalie is going to be letting us into her story, a student who struggled getting her ID. Long queues, system failures, and years-long backlogs. That's just the long, short story. But these are just some of the challenges that South Africans are faced with when it comes to applying for their identity documentations. And this is the most recent experience involving a first-time ID applicant who sheds more light on the systematic gaps at the Department of Home Affairs and also taps into why exactly access to an ID remains a national concern more than anything else. Natalia, thank you very much for your time this morning and a warm welcome to Power 987.
Hi, Vicky. Thank you.
Natalia, please go ahead and narrate your story and give us an indication of what went wrong when you tried to apply for your ID.
Thank you. So when I first turned 16, we didn't immediately apply for an ID. And it became a thing recently of me really insisting to my parents that we get one because I'm entering my matric year and pretty soon I'm going to have to start applying to universities. So we make our appointment at Home Affairs and we go there and we go through all the processes and everything's going fine. System crashed only once, which was impressive, Home Affairs. But when we got to kind of the final stage, the Home Affairs worker said to me, "Oh, you need your mother here." And we kind of said, "Oh, well, it states on the website that only one parent is needed." And she said, "Yes. But when they say that, they really mean that they need the mother there. Because if it's only the father, chances are they will pen your ID and they will do investigations into it to see why your mother is not there, why only the father is there." She said it can be suspended sometimes for months. And as I said, the reason that I've been finally getting on this is for me to apply to university, and applications come up pretty soon. So it really is a huge inconvenience. It's not something that they state on their website or that we were given any prior knowledge about. It was when we got there, the worker telling us that they tend to investigate children who come only with their fathers.
Which then meant, Natalie, that you had to make another appointment and then bring in both your parents?
No, we didn't have to make another appointment, but the worker let me know that I will probably have a significantly longer wait than most other people applying for IDs, and that I may get messaged by the Home Affairs Department to ask me additional questions before I'm allowed to get my ID.
And were you called by a member of the department?
I haven't been yet, no. All I've gotten is a basic message acknowledging that I've applied for one.
And how long ago has this been?
This was on the 2nd of January.
All right. So we do have Nicola on the line who's going to assist us. And maybe I can ask you to hold the line so we can see how you might get a solution to navigate your way through this, or maybe any questions that you might have as well that could assist you with your ID documentation process, especially for the applications that you've mentioned as well. Nicola, thank you very much for your time this morning and a warm welcome to Power Zone.
Hi, Pretty, and hi to everybody who's awake. So yes, I'm Natalie's mom. Just for clarity, now I'm a contributing journalist for IRL as well as personal finance lead. So I took umbrage at the fact that the dad needed to be there because I thought this was ridiculous in this day and age, and that's why I wrote the column that details this experience.
Let's speak from a parent's perspective just firstly.
Yeah.
How does that inconsistency impact trust when it comes to the public service, especially now zooming into Home Affairs?
So, to my mind, we live in a country where we have the most advanced constitution in the world, and it speaks about equality. Everybody is equal, and you can't discriminate. So, as a starting point, we've got that. And then nothing on the internet anywhere says anything, as Nat pointed out, about needing somebody with a uterus there to apply for an ID. And we know that Dr. Leon Schreiber has boasted about his achievements, and he paints the department as a forward-looking department. And then when you get there on the front line, it's not the case. And to my mind, it's ridiculous that dads cannot be there with their kids without the mom. Why do you need the mom? And this isn't the only experience I've heard of. Somebody else I work with said he had to phone his ex-wife from the desk. And I'm thinking, well, anybody could have picked up.
That's very true. That's very true.
So it's, we all had these warm, fuzzy feelings last year with the government of national unity, thinking, okay, cool, maybe some state capture will be eroded and we'll have service delivery and bins will be emptied on time. And then you get to the frontline workers, and clearly nothing has filtered through from the top. There's clearly a need for education. There's clearly a need to explain things, and there's clearly a need to root out what is effectively a patriarchal system. Why am I not allowed to work, and instead I must do the whole mom thing? And why is my ex-husband not allowed to be a dad and take his kid? His ID number is on the birth certificate. His face is on the ID book. His ID number's on his ID book. It's clear that he's dad, and it was an unabridged original birth certificate.
And is that why you've gone on to frame the ID application hurdles as a systematic of a patriarchal system?
Absolutely. I feel that it's just not. We're basically entrenching the notion that women must be the caregivers. I suppose they must do the ironing, they must do the cooking and shopping. And we're also negating the fact that men actually do stand up. I mean, I know that there are huge queues outside maintenance court. If you go to any magistrate's court, you can see the long queues outside the office, and there's mostly women. However, that is not. You can't paint everybody with the same brush. It's not a complete example of every single person in this country. We all have equal rights. Why can dads who are stepping up not step up?
How widespread do you think this issue, especially for single fathers or maybe other caregivers, how widespread do you think this issue is? And when it comes to talking to others since publishing your piece, how has that changed your perspective on how common these hurdles are?
Well, I did a bit of research, and based on the Census A figures, there's almost 1 million children out there who have a dad as the head of household, single dad. And it doesn't say for what reason. It could be because mom is dead, unfortunately. And in those cases, they would need to take a death certificate with, and why. So that'll affect at least 1 million kids at some stage unless this changes. I haven't had much personal feedback. A few people have indicated that they've encountered the same problem, but that could be because dads are 4.3% of the household as a percentage in terms of them leading it alone. But I imagine that it will affect far more people than just Max and I and my ex-husband Joel. And then there will be children who are unfortunately maybe in orphanages, and it'll affect them too. So we really do need a solution where, the legal guardian, as long as they can prove they're the legal guardian for the child, it doesn't matter who or what they are, they can stand in that queue with their kid and get an ID book.
So obviously here we've got a policy problem amongst many other problems as well, some that you've been able to acquire some stats for. What policy changes do you maybe think that Home Affairs needs to implement, especially with immediate effect, to address these families' needs?
I think we need to actually stick to what they say. This needs to filter down from the top. It needs to be education that the policy is actually you need one parent, and you only need or the legal guardian or whatever the case is, somebody who can prove they're responsible for that child, and all they need to do is prove that. That needs to be entrenched across Home Affairs across the country. Because what I have also heard is that some officers say mom, and some say both parents, and some say dad, and it's ridiculous that we have these arbitrary rules, especially when you don't really get to choose which office you go to. It's a bit of potluck when you make your appointment.
From what you've experienced, maybe just bringing in what the Minister of Home Affairs has spoken about as well when it comes to the digital transformation and dignity for all, which is something that has been echoed for quite some time now. Is there a disconnect between rhetoric and reality? And obviously, where do you then think that disconnect comes from?
Oh, I would say absolutely, Pretty. There's the lived reality that Nat's experienced, and then there's the whole forward-thinking position that Dr. Schreiber has put forward. I'm just looking for his exact quote here, but he said, here we go, last July during his budget speech, he said, and quite rightly, that the department has often been derided as the epitome of government failure. And then he listed a whole bunch of achievements, including a backlog of visas and that sort of thing. And he said that the department has exceeded the expectations of cynics and optimists alike. And then you stand in the queue and you get this policy that's arbitrary and seems to have been made up by whoever is sitting there on the spot. We need direction from the top down. The policies need to be very clear. They need to be made very obvious on the website, on the booking site, for example. When you get to, a page where it asks you to pick a date, there needs to be a note saying you will require the following to get there. You seem to have to guess what you need to take. I was joking in my column that maybe I should have given my ex-husband a copy of the divorce decree. As well, saying that he's primary caregiver. And maybe they could have taken the dog with, just for good measure. We don't know what they need.
Yeah.
That's where I think the change needs to come in. There needs to just be a firm policy. This is the policy. It needs to be communicated to every single person who wants to apply for an ID, and it needs to be firmly entrenched in Home Affairs offices across the country.
I want to tap into the journalism side, the journalistic side of you, as a seasoned journalist. This is now a story that is quite personal to you, but you've managed to stretch it beyond and involve the public system. How do you decide when a personal story then goes on to reveal a broader failure in our public systems worth writing about?
Well, if we go all the way back to the start of my career, and I'm not going to give away my age, I wanted to be a lawyer. And then I discovered, apart from the fact that it was horribly taught where I studied, and I won't diss them, that there's far more justice in journalism. I don't like injustice. And this struck me very much as being wrong, if I could put it like that. And it's one thing to stand there and go, well, this is not fair. And it's another thing to say, okay, well, this is an issue that we need to highlight. We need to start the conversation. And wherever I can, I bring things down to what it means for the man in the street, the average Joe, if I could put it like that. When I write for personal finance, I take money concepts and I translate them into English. So for me, it's what happens on the ground. How does this affect people? What does this mean that we need to get across as journalists? And where we can, use almost a power in a way to highlight inefficiencies. So I don't look at things like this as, oh, this is just me, which it was. It was a personal experience. You're quite right, Buddy. It does highlight a bigger issue, a systematic flaw.
Yeah. I want to bring in one of our guests here. We've got Nicola from Pretoria. Nicola, very good morning to you and a warm welcome to Power 987. Please go ahead.
Good morning to you and your listeners.
Good morning, Nicola. Please go ahead.
Let's say that also this issue was taken to get an ID.
Nico, I'm having a problem with your line. I can't really hear you well.
You hear me now?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
Yes. I was just saying that I also had the same issues while I was trying to get an ID for my child. It's very frustrating. They give you dates that clashes with the child's dates that they're supposed to be writing, and it's very frustrating.
Well, that's a very interesting point, Nico. Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. Thank you very much for your time this morning, Nico.
Thank you.
Nicola, when I listen to Dinyika and she speaks about, the clash of exam times or maybe a date where somebody needs to be at school, has that also been taken into consideration?
We did make an appointment for sometime last year. I did. It took me a while to sort it out, but I did manage to get one. And then unfortunately school happened. So you need to balance this whole, to make us quite right. You've got to somehow try and balance getting an appointment with schools or exams or whatever the case is, for starters. And then when you go into matric, you need your ID. So it becomes a very tricky balancing game. And it's not easy to find an appointment on the website. I went in November to book one in early Jan, and I couldn't get into 2026. Home Affairs seemed to think that the world would end on the 31st of December because the calendar didn't go beyond that. And then in the middle of December, I managed to make an appointment. But it wasn't at the closest Home Affairs. It was in Newtown, which isn't as crime-free, if I could put it like that, as it used to be. I've had dodgy experiences with some youth there. So it is tricky to try and get an appointment that also works around people's lives, which is one of the reasons my ex-husband was there, actually. I had to work. I worked for myself. I had to work. He was available to go. Him and I balanced these sort of things out. So this was when he could go, so he went. Or we could organise that he could go to match the appointment. Let me rather put it like that.
And after having released the article and the findings, what responses, if any, have you received since publishing this piece? Have any officials, maybe officials or readers or advocacy groups reached out with insight or commitments to change, or maybe take a listen to what it is that the article is trying to narrate to the people?
Well, very sadly, I've had nothing from Home Affairs, and I was a bit cheeky. I posted it on LinkedIn, and I did tag the minister, and I've heard absolutely nothing. He's usually very vocal on social media, so that's disappointing. I mean, not only would it help really much solve my problem, but it would also help, maybe drive policy change. I haven't heard from advocacy groups yet. Maybe somebody will be listening now and will be able to pick this up and advocate for change to drive the fact that parents are equal and dads should be able to stand in queues just the same as moms are expected to. That moms don't need to be in the kitchen and the primary caregivers and fetching kids and whatever. Dads can also do this, and moms can also have a career, especially when you look at the inequality out there. We know that women earn less than men and that sort of thing. So why are we entrenching that?
You're absolutely right. Nicola, thank you very much for your time this morning. And thank you for the work that you do. This is quite an outstanding piece that has really raised many eyebrows. And I think I, for one, am one of those people that have learned a thing or two. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Well, thanks for that, Trudy. It's a very nice compliment. I appreciate that.
And to you too as well, Nat. Thank you very much for your time. And I know it's going to sound very unfair, but I'm glad you had this experience so that your mom could let us know what exactly is happening in Home Affairs. Thank you very much for your time and narrating your story to us this morning.
Yes, thank you for having me.
A great conversation, unpacking what is happening in Home Affairs. Who would have thought that it's not just the long queues, it's not just the systematic failures, it's not the years-long backlogs that we are faced with and we are keep on being fed, but there's also a patriarchal problem that we have in our system that doesn't allow men to go and assist, whether it might be their daughters, sons, or their children in general, to go and get their IDs. The presence of a mother is required. But here's the argument that Nicola then poses in her article, speaking about why must it always be the mother, the woman who goes and stands in these long snaking queues instead of them having a career just like any other man. when it comes to Diniko as well, and her comment, which was quite profound, to say that some of the issues that they are faced with is having a date that is available, but unfortunately it clashes with one of the school writing days or school activities or any sort of other commitment that comes with the very same reasoning as to why they want to have this ID application get it done and get it done and over with. It's a huge problem. What a new lens that we wake up to this morning.